So, what should emerging publishers do in the wake of the Diamond bankruptcy? Hi, my name is Gamal Hennessy. I'm an attorney, author, and business consultant who specializes in the comic book industry. And once again, this week, we have a question from one of our comic creators. If you'd like to ask a question for this channel, please just reach out, give me your question, and I will do my best to answer it. Although I will not be giving out any legal advice for free on this channel, because that's not how legal advice works. So the specific question is, do you anticipate publishers having to now incorporate an in-house retail legal department? Is this feasible for publishers? Now, just for a little background and context, this question comes in the wake of Vault's announcement that they're going to have a direct-to-retailer distribution program, cutting out third-party distributors between them and the comic book shops. The reason that they're doing this is that about a couple weeks ago, Diamond Distributors, the premier comic book distributor since the 1990s, has filed for bankruptcy. The distribution in comic book shops overall has become very fragmented and uncertain. So a lot of different publishers are trying a lot of different ways to make sure that their books continue to get distributed. So the question remains, if you're an emerging or independent comic book publisher, do you need to follow Vault? Do you need to figure out some other way to kind of deal with the Diamond situation? The answer to that is yes, but not necessarily in the way that the question is structured. You see, I have long advocated the idea that if you are publishing comics, you need at least two distinct groups of people to get that comic book published. You need a creative team, the team that everyone usually thinks about, the writer, the artist, the colorist, the letterer. You also need someone handling the business roles, the marketing, the distribution, the printing, the shipping. Because if you make a great comic and the final files never actually get into a comic, or that comic never gets to the right place, then your publishing efforts are largely wasted. So if you're an independent publisher, you have to figure out what your distribution is going to be for your comic. Now, that distribution may have nothing to do with the direct market, because the direct market is only one of many different distribution channels. Based on the nature of your book, the nature of your reader, the nature of a lot of different factors, you may not really need to have your book in comic book shops at all. For example, if your readers never go into a comic book shop, then fighting to get your book in a comic book shop is kind of a waste of time, except for the fact that you probably grew up reading comics and going to comic book shops, and it's natural for you to want to see your book on the shelf in the same way as the books that you grew up with. From a business standpoint, that may not make sense. You may need to have your books in crowdfunding. You may need to have your books in libraries. You may need to have your books in what's called direct to consumer distribution, so that the right reader is finding your book at the right time so that they can spend money on it and keep your business going. So you do need to figure out what you're going to do relative to the Diamond bankruptcy, but broaden out your idea of what comic book distribution is, because comic book shops are not, and they never were, the be-all, end-all of comic book distribution. They are simply a major component in a much wider distribution network. So again, if you have questions about any aspect of the comic book business that you'd like answered on this channel, please feel free to send that question to me, and I'll do my best to answer it. If you would like a private one-on-one consultation about the legal or business aspects of your comic book publishing, I offer free consultations. So simply go to my website. The link will be in the description, and you can set up that free consultation. If you'd like a lot more in-depth information from a community of individuals who are actually growing their own comic book publishing companies, then consider joining Comics Experience, where you can have access to all of that information and interact with all of the people who are trying to achieve things very similar to what you're trying to achieve. And that will be in the show notes as well. So until the next time, get off the internet and go make some comics.